performing arts voice inside in the Irish World Academy in UL. I decided to do my research project on synesthesia and synesthesia to do with music. So I first came across the word synesthesia randomly when I was looking at YouTube videos. So over in London, before there was Google Maps and everything, taxi people had to memorize various different pathways and everything throughout London by complete memory. So this particular person that I saw in the video had synesthesia, and he had enhanced memory because for each stop and street name, he associated with a different taste. So he actually tasted different words on his tongue. One stop would taste like Mars bars, and another stop would taste like cinnamon. So he had enhanced memory, and he was able to learn everything way quicker and better than his colleagues. So then I thought, if this person has enhanced memory because of intermingled senses, then surely this happens musically as well. And it does, and there is a load of musical synesthetes out there. So that is what I decided to do my research project on. So synesthesia. Synesthesia is a condition in which a stimulus in one sensory modality automatically triggers consistent and involuntary percepts in another sensory modality. So basically, if I hear sound, then I might see colour. I would be a synesthete. So if I was to hear a G note, I would see orange out in front of me. And from looking at various different studies on synesthesia, one way that they would test genuine synesthesia is that they would test sound-colour associations. And they might test me randomly again in a year's time. And they would see if I would still associate G with the colour orange. So true genuine synesthetes did have 95% above accuracy in this test. And that is just one of the tests for genuine synesthesia. But the three main things you need to have to be considered a true synesthete would be that your associations occur automatically, consistently, and involuntary. So the main direction I went in my research was, what is auditory synesthesia, exploring music-induced sensory neural advantages in the creative arts. So because I'm a musician myself, I wanted to look at synesthetic musicians and what would be the advantages that a synesthetic musician would have over myself. And it turns out that there is a lot of advantages that synesthetic musicians have. So my research study is qualitative. My methodology, I decided to do a literature review methodology based on the cable paper here. So I compared and contrasted various different studies and experiments, and I added my own interpretation to the literature. So the first path I went down when I was trying to research my FYP was that I looked at various different types of auditory-induced synesthesia. And what I really wanted to look at was, because there's loads of different types of synesthesia, is types that would benefit musicians. So the most researched is chromesthesia, which is the most common type of auditory-induced synesthesia. So when I hear sound, I would see colour. And what I didn't know before I researched on my FYP was that there's two different types of visual synesthetes. So you could either be a projector synesthete, in which I hear a G note and I visually see in my physical field an orange light or a blob out in front of me, actually in my physical visual field. Or I could be an associator synesthete, so I would really associate in my mind's eye the colour orange when I hear a G note. So that is the most researched type of synesthesia to do with music. There is sound spatial synesthesia, and there is a bit of a grey area when it comes to this when I was researching my FYP, because we're all a bit sound spatial synesthetic. If I was to ask you to sing a high note, you would imagine reaching up on a vertical playing. And if I was to ask you to sing the lowest note you can, you would imagine going down into your boots, basically. So I realized that there is a gray area because some sound spatial synesthetes are actually influenced by musical notation. So if you see the musical stave here, as pitches would go up, they would see it in their visual field going up in a linear diagonal pattern like that, as if influenced by the musical stave as the pitch would go up. So there needs to be more research done on that because it is a bit of a grey area. But there is also sound visual synesthesia, and my friend has this. He's a singer-songwriter and he plays guitar. So when he would be writing a song and he would be doing a chord progression for a song, he would visually see in his mind's eye, because he's an associator synesthete, a landscape form out in front of him. So then I asked him, did you ever paint any of these things that you saw in your mind? And he did, and this is what he saw in his mind for his song called Waller's Ghost. He's King Palace on Spotify. And this is what he always sees when he plays this song, is this monochromatic picture. And he always sees it when he plays this song and this chord progression. He's also an associator chromesthetic, so he associates different colors in his mind with various different notes. So there needs to be more research done on sound olfactory. So you smell sound, or sound gustatory, you would taste sound. I only came across one study to do with sound gustatory synesthesia, to do with music. This woman actually tasted different musical intervals. So for a perfect fifth, she tasted sweetness on her tongue. For something disgusting sounding like a tritone, she actually tasted something disgusting on her tongue, and she would taste something different for each musical interval. So this would help her have absolute pitch and identify the different intervals. So the main direction I went in my study was advantages that synesthetic musicians have. Absolute pitch. Not every synesthete has absolute pitch, and not every person that has absolute pitch has synesthesia. But from studies I looked at, a significant percentage of people with absolute pitch possess synesthesia as well, and vice versa. Just when I was thinking about my friend as well, I asked him, what do you see in your mind when you, let's say, tune up your guitar? And he said that if the note was off tune, he would only know it's off tune because he would see a muddy or muted colour in his mind. And as he tuned up to the right note, the colour would get brighter and more concentrated. So another advantage is enhanced memory. And there's also a gap in the research when it comes to this for musicians. So basically, it is proven that when more than one area is stimulated in the brain, there is enhanced memory. So I wanted to look at this in regards to, we'll say, classical musicians learning off long pieces of music, because there is enhanced memory with this. But most of the research is to do with grapheme color synesthesia, which is you associate different colors basically with different numerals and letters, so that would help you pick out patterns and memorize them easier. So there needs to be more research to do with musical memory basically, and the advantages that a synesthetic musician would have with this. So you can quantify these things for advantages. But a big amount of my paper was to do with general musicality and creativity that synesthetic musicians have. And these are just a small handful of synesthetic musicians, and they have contributed greatly to the actual evolution of music throughout time. And I bet you each one of you listening to this actually knows a synesthetic musician, because how often do you ask someone, how do you perceive music? Do you see colors? So this is Fran's list, and he...
just to say you have 1 minute left, Abby.
So he would have often said to his orchestra, can you play a bit more rose or a bit more violet? So he's a true synesthete, and all these people you see here have influenced music throughout time, and they have synesthetic works. So if anyone was to ever say that there was a yellow song, it would be Happy by Pharrell Williams, and he's a synesthetic musician himself. And he said that he would be lost without his synesthesia when composing music. So there is a great amount of synesthetic musicians out there, and I really enjoyed researching this topic, and there is so much to learn, and there's so many gaps in the research, and I hope that there is more study done on it in the future. So that's my presentation. Thanks very much for listening. Any questions?
Thank you, Abby. That's a fascinating topic. Just one moment now while I turn off the recording. Hang on. Stop recording. I'm going to stop recording.